beer after this. You see my, Alright, so I was trying to think about like why I wanted to do this in the first place, and I think a lot of it goes back, first of all, I don't really know, but a lot of it goes back to why I'm doing this program. Of course it's to learn and broaden my skill set and have more opportunities, but it really is to connect with you all and get to know one another. I love hearing about all of y'all's stories. So many people are like, I don't know if my story's worth sharing, and like I can tell you whenever I learn about each of you, it is so meaningful to me, and I feel like that's a real way we build connection and really build bonds. And James Baldwin has like a ton of stuff that resonates with me, but this quote really resonated with me about just like this fireside chat. Love takes off the mask that we fear we cannot live without and know we cannot live within. And like if we really want to build connection, really getting to know you guys and vice versa is a huge way to do that. So thank you for being here and caring about what I say. It's really meaningful, and I appreciate it. So I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about like who I am and like how I became who I am impacts my career and just the way I live my life. And I figure I'll start kind of go in a linear way and start at the beginning. So that's little Hill, little me. I look like almost the same. And a lot has stayed the same, like my haircut for the most part. RBF, still. I'm still usually, once you get to know me, one of the weirder people in the room. When I was little, I spent about a year of my life only in public wearing an animal snout. My biggest favorite is that when I was about 5, I became like really into Germany and I bought myself muzzy tapes and learned how to play the glockenspiel, which is like very strange. But some things have definitely changed. I was super shy, like wouldn't talk to anyone outside of a select few people until probably 2nd grade, and I started talking because I realized that I had like been passed over from a gifted program, which made sense. I wasn't speaking to anyone, so I was like, I guess I should start talking. So I did, and that timidity is like still in there, but a lot has evolved as well. And so much about who I am and who I was comes from where I grew up. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself as it orients to like my roots. So I'm a daughter to my parents, Bridget and John. I am a sibling. My sister Ellie and my brother Joe, I'm in the middle. And they're anchors for me. We're anchors for each other and a huge support to one another. And they're some of my favorite people. I'm a friend. These people in the picture down here, most of us have been friends since we were 3. I texted them today. That's them over there. I was with them 2 weeks ago. Like I can't remember my life without these people. We're braided together. And like so many people, the people remind me of the place. So I grew up in a town called Dover Plains. That's my town. Not much of a town. There were 1,200 people, and we spent the majority of our time rope swinging into the river, cliff jumping, drinking in fields, as you do, seeing how fast you could drive on dirt roads safely. Not so safely, and it was a huge formative experience for me. I lived there until I was 18. I don't really go back too much. Not my family's all dispersed since, but so much of who I am is because of the values I got in that place. So during that 18 years, I know now, especially as a parent, like how formative your youth is and how much what happens to you in those early days impacts the rest of your life and the way you live. And I had a couple really formative experiences during that time that I'll tell you about and then tell you how they have impacted me since. So I talked a little bit about the people. I'm going to talk a little bit more about them now. So in the top picture, those are some of my friends, Cassie, Kate, Amanda, and amazing nurturing souls. Kate and I actually have been friends since we were 2. We're like sisters. And all of them I always felt like would be amazing nurses or caregivers of some kind that maybe. In the top right and then in the bottom is my high school boyfriend Daryl, which is kind of a misnomer because I was 15 and he was done with high school already, but that's a whole other fireside chat. We need a lot of make some drinks. but we dated for like 2.5 years in high school, which you know is a lifetime. He had his demons, but he was an amazingly vibrant person, like infectious energy, the type of person that, you know, they enter the room and everyone's filled with joy, and it's like there's a spark in that person. And then this is my friend D. His name's actually Dave. We always called him Deedles or D. We have the same birthday. He's 2 years older. We graduated the same year. It tells you a little bit about D's educational trajectory. But he was everyone's favorite person. Just like a total clown. Just loyal to a fault. So fun. We spent like every day of high school together. Mostly in a single wide with his stepdad Marcus, who wore cutoff jean shorts. His belly was like this, and he had like a long beard and hair. Just we were in the ripping his 6-foot bong with his mom and his stepdad. Almost all these people have died now, all of them had amazing potential. And for the ones that are still with us, like my dear friend Kate, like I didn't say this with love. She doesn't have a license. She doesn't have a job. It's just that things will never be back on track for how they were supposed to be. And what I know is that I'm not here and they're there because I'm better than they are. Loving these people and largely losing these people was really formative to me. I want to play you a super quick clip that I think articulates better what I believe and what I took from that. It's slightly political, but like if you don't align with that, sorry. And then also, I think you'll still get the message.
But for the arbitrary nature of birth and circumstance, while teaching in that prison, is that but for the arbitrary nature of birth and circumstance, it could have very easily been me sitting inside of that prison classroom, rather than having the freedom to walk in and out of it. The fact that I work at the Atlantic, or attended Harvard, or write books for a living, is not simply because I worked hard. And it is certainly not because I deserve those things more than anybody else. I worked hard, of course, but I was also born into a context, enough food, enough shelter, enough safety, in which my hard work could bear a certain type of fruit that would not be possible elsewhere. But for the arbitrary nature of birth and circumstance, I could have been a child in Ukraine, living under the constant barrage of missiles and drones that whistle nightly above my bomb shelter. But for the arbitrary nature of birth and circumstance, I could have been a child in Gaza, who has watched his entire family killed by weapons that struck homes and hospitals and tents. But for the arbitrary nature of birth and circumstance, I could have easily been an undocumented person who came to this country, fleeing violence and poverty to provide my children with a better life, only to be snatched off the street by masked men. I could go on, but my point is that something I've come to understand is that we should live our lives grounded in a humility, an empathy, and a generosity that recognizes how easily each of our lives could look dramatically different than they do today. The most important thing that I learned while teaching in that prison.
All right. I think he just so eloquently says like what I really believe and what I took from really getting to know the vibrancy and talents of these amazing people and then ultimately losing them. And I try to carry that with me when I think about how I approach my work and what I have to this point chosen to do for work. And this is my dad. His name was John Casson, and there's so much I value about my dad. He loved good music. You could always hear my dad arrive before you saw him. He was blasting Nirvana, Cream, CCR, whatever it was, up the driveway, and he really instilled in me a love for music. He was an amazingly hard worker. He commuted 2 hours each way to the city to make sure that we had what we needed and beyond. He also was like weird as well, like an amazing sense of humor, and he definitely passed on the weird genes to me. And he definitely had sharp elbows. If you know me, you know I'll go toe to toe with anyone, sometimes against my better judgment, especially if they think that, like, if I think that they're, you know, coming after a person I love, and he was very much the same way. Also a huge fitness person, runner, and I got that from me. And I think the thing that I take with me most is that I know he loved me really deeply. But also my dad battled substantial mental illness. My dad was bipolar and had severe anxiety, and his mental illness was just like an ever-present character in my life. When I was little, I didn't really like fully understand it, but I just knew that things were volatile. Dad was volatile, and you didn't really know what you were going to get. And for me, being an anxious kid, like that by proxy, of course, like put a tax on me, where I carried that. I was always looking for that that stable ground, but it felt like it was ever shifting. It was so bad that at points like he was gone for a while, and I'd come to find out like had been suicidal. And so that was really a lot of pain that he carried, and I know he didn't mean for that pain to be carried on to me. Like people do the best that they can, right? I just know he was always really seeking that peace. And about 11 years ago, he was starting to get better. As you might, if you're familiar with bipolar disorder, it kind of tapers as you get older. And he was definitely like getting better and a little bit healthier, and then he unexpectedly died. And I got to the hospital for them to try chest compressions for the last time. I'm pretty sure he was already dead at that point, but they were like, all right, he's gone. And I remember holding his hand and just saying, like, you can rest now. Because I just always wanted him to have that peace, and he never got it. And this, if you know Wildflowers by Tom Petty, that my brother-in-law played that at his funeral, and the lyrics really speak to me about what we wanted for him, and what just like didn't come. So I, not to get too deep into my dad and what I want about that, but I think for me, that left me really seeking peace a lot. And I'll talk in a moment in a little bit more specific terms about how. So time always allows you to step back and say, like, okay, what have I learned from these formative experiences, and how can I take these things and drive them forward? And I know that I'm a bit of a restless soul, and I'm like always in an active pursuit of peace. And I have found that my formative experiences have me doing that in 3 ways. Like one, I really believe that everyone has potential and deserves conditions for self-determination, and I try to work to create those for other people. I also maladaptively sometimes seek out chaos and challenge and instability so that I can organize it, and it's pretty obvious where that's coming from. And then, given what I shared, I find that I work relentlessly to find security for myself and the people that I love. And you'll see how that played on my career in a second. Okay, so let's talk about the turning point. I'm not going to dwell here because it's like the main thing about, I went to college and went to Loyola. It was a fine school. I had a blast. It was so much fun. But for me, that was the point where I was like, I'm getting out. And I love my hometown, and I